Okay. Now, can you guys see my screen okay?
Yep.
Yep. No worries. Brilliant. All right, so we'll kick off. So this is sort of the first of the sessions, which we sort of shaped around being the digital marketing plan intro. Now these have got a lot of sort of planning and information gathering activities in there, which will help start to establish an actual digital marketing plan for you guys. It's not that dissimilar to a general marketing plan as such, but can obviously be shaped and drawn up with the mindset of being more specific to digital tactics. So this is a really good starting point for the businesses that maybe sort of do a bit of flying by the seat of their pants, or making it up as they go along. It's a really good just sort of activity to sort of pause and get your ducks in a line and just start to develop that real framework around planning, what you're going to be doing for the quarter, 6 months, 12 months, and, basically map everything out. And it's obviously especially good for ensuring that you've got the budget allocated accordingly as well. So what we'll do today is we'll go through basically the steps of developing a plan. We'll go over business initiatives. We'll look at how to do and set up and identify SMART goals. We'll go through the benefits of doing a competitor analysis. Also developing an understanding of your customer, and we'll also look at buyer personas. We'll look at a SWOT analysis so you can start to identify some potential opportunities for your businesses as well as identify threats. And then we'll start to look at tactics that, can start to obviously marry up with what some of those opportunities are. And then we'll also look at budgeting. So this is going to be a very top level sort of overview of what goes into a digital marketing plan. There'll be a little bit of homework that you guys can take home and really start to flesh out. But once you obviously address and go through each of these steps, when you've got all of that information together collectively, it will give you a bit of a roadmap basically to get your digital marketing in order effectively. So we'll have a question and answer session at the end of the preso. So if you jot any questions down, we can cross those when we get towards the end. Now, can everyone see the presentation okay?
Yes.
Yep, perfect. All right. So as I said, the marketing basically is it's dovetailed directly into sales, and it's a very important business function. So it basically it's present at the beginning and it's also present at the end. And its basically purpose is to understand customers so that you can get people interested in your company, your products and your services, and ultimately make a sale. So having a solid strategy in place is a good starting point for any marketing activity. So part of this strategy is obviously having a really in-depth understanding of what you're trying to achieve and who you're trying to target, and making sure that you're obviously identifying cost-effective ways of actually being able to target those customers, and then evaluate a return on investment. Now, one step backwards is your marketing plan. Obviously, we've said marketing is an activity that is handholds with sales. So your marketing plan should really address the needs and objectives that are in your business plan as well. So the business plan is another really important piece of documentation to have in place, and does effectively guide your marketing plan as well. It basically tells you, what its purpose does. What does it need to achieve for the business? So we'll jump through and just cover off on business initiatives. So this part of the plan helps you segment the different ideas and initiatives you have for marketing. And this needs to be specific for each project. So you can always have, your marketing plan can have little plans within plans, basically. But if you've got an idea, an initiative that you want to, specifically develop a framework around, that you've got a roadmap of where do you start, where do you finish, then, that's effectively one initiative. and you should identify that and treat that as one sort of mini plan. So let's look at an example here. So, for example, your company has the ambitious goal of wanting to, help the business do that. Your marketing will pursue the following initiative in the current year. So, for an example, over the next 12 months, we'll work on building a blog that becomes a go-to resource for our customers' burning questions and our #1 source of leads month over month. So that's the description. The goal of the initiative would be to increase the website's rank on Google and create a critical top of the funnel marketing content that can help our team start more conversations with new customers. And then how they would measure that would be organic views through to the website or however many content downloads they may have per month. So that's basically how you sort of break down the initiative of just simply writing a blog. But you want to identify what is the reason for that blog. What is it going to do? What is it going to talk about? It's going to answer questions. It's going to generate leads. It's going to push traffic through to the website. How are we going to measure it? We're going to look at the organic hits that we get through to the website. We're going to look at how many people may download that blog. So it starts to put some accountability against the initiative for you. So that's just one example. To help sort of identify what those initiatives are and how you actually identify, objectives and goals, we can look at SMART goals. So you may have heard this before. You might have even conducted this for some of your marketing activities for your businesses. When setting goals, it's critical to be targeted as possible so you can effectively measure the outcome against what you set out to achieve. So a really simple way to do this is with this SMART acronym. So we'll cover this in other workshops as well. And it's probably a point to just to keep in mind is if you guys are attending some of the other workshops, because of just the nature of marketing and some of the frameworks and tips and tools that we use, there will be a little bit of a crossover, but there'll also be the opportunity to put some of these tactics and tips into more of a relevant sort of space as well. So yeah, just in case you say, oh, I've seen that before. So it's a critical step within any planning strategy. And later in the workshop, we'll actually take some of this information within these SMART goals and use it along with other information that we develop, such as a SWOT analysis and that sort of thing, to set marketing goals that align with your business goals. So we'll just go through. So with your SMART goals, so basically S stands for specific, M is for measurable, A is for actionable, R is for relevant, and T is for time-based. So it's a really good way, if you ever think you've got a cracking idea and you think it's going to, go gangbusters for the business, it's really good to actually sit down and put any idea through its paces with this little acronym. And what that does is instantly gives you a bit of a framework as to if it's going to go the distance or not. So we've just had Tamara join us. So with your SMART marketing goals, so when we talk about specific, we're specifically talking about, okay, what is it that you're actually trying to achieve? We want to be, specific to what channel we're going to use to get that, to achieve that goal with that particular idea. And then we want to be specific by tactic as well. And then also be specific by metrics. So if you've got an awesome idea and you're going to deploy it, how are you going to measure it? What are you going to use to get it out there? And which specific channels are you going to use? So, is it going to be, paid social? Is it going to be organic via, just social content posts? Is it going to be user generated? How are you going to measure it? Is it going to be engagement? Is it going to be click through to the site? That sort of thing. So look at all of your metrics and see what you can pull in to then actually go, okay, well, when we look at time-based, what's the duration of the campaign or of the promotion? And at the end of that time frame, how are we going to measure it? Was it effective? Did it work? Didn't work? So when we look at M, which is the measurable, so we want to identify, okay, we've got this awesome idea. What does success look like? So what do we think it's going to achieve for the business? And can we put a number against it? So if we've got an event, we're wanting to host an inter-business event, how many people do we want to attend? You know, how many potential new prospects? Or we've got a dream, you know, hit list around, you know, who would we like to have attend? Well, there's a number there. How many bums on seats do we need? Is there a benchmark for comparison? So you could look at industry benchmarks for, if we look at, say, e-newsletter open rates, that sort of thing. So identify what sort of number, what sort of metric you can put against that idea to measure it. And then A is actionable. So can it actually be achieved? So sometimes we can have these really great ideas, but when we start to break them down, we realise that there could be just challenges like COVID, for instance, posed a lot of new challenges on businesses around, you know, face-to-face events that made it extremely difficult to execute. So we had to have a look at, you know, different ways to get around that. Does it depend on others? So will you have, you know, extra challenges or obstacles put in your place because you're reliable or reliant on other people, you know, delivering a certain part of it? You know, and identify what challenges there may be that would prevent your success, and, you know, nip them in the bud at the onset, or find a tactic or a way to get around it so that it doesn't pose a problem. Then we go on to R, which is relevant. So why is it important? So why is it important to host this event for the business? What's the potential there? What's the gain? And what value do these goals represent? So what's the size of the prize effectively? You know, we're going to hold this event, we're going to have X amount of prospects, you know, attend. We want to at least convert 2 of those. What's the sale value of those 2 people, you know, coming on board as a client, for instance? And then time-based. So how will we know when we've met the goal? So with an event, obviously you've got the event itself. So once the event is over, your campaign effectively is over, and you start to sort of crunch the numbers and see how it's washed out. If it's an online digital campaign, it could be that it's a quarterly campaign, so you know that you've got you know, your 3 months effectively from start to finish. And then how will you actually share progress, you know, with your team, with your business partner, you know, with your clients. So that's a really it's a really quick and easy way. It's been around forever, but it's never lost its relevance as far as really testing an idea and providing an initial piece of framework around you know, how to really sort of identify if a goal, you know, basically has enough legs to deliver an outcome for your business. So what we might do now is actually, you've got one of those activity sheets, which I shot through to you on email. Here's this one here. You guys could just take 5 minutes and just jot down, just think of a single idea. It could even be something that you've done previously that maybe worked really well, or it didn't quite come up to scratch, or it could be just a new idea that you've been floating around for a little while. Just put it through its paces with this approach and see how you go with it. So if you just want to take, just a couple of minutes just to work through that. Everyone going okay with that, or are you stumped? Excellent, Brenda. So one great thing about digital marketing is obviously we've got a whole range of different metrics at our fingertips that we can use to measure any of our SMART goals. So that's always a great thing that we can know that we're going to have plenty of numbers and plenty of data to identify the return on investment. Okay, well, we'll keep moving on, and if we've got time at the end, we might, if anyone wants to share one of the goals that they've actually mapped out, we can probably go through that and discuss that in a little bit more detail. But that little template, you can basically keep that on hand and use that over and over again. It's a really good way to, just to make sure that any goal is basically ticking all of those boxes for your business. So another critical part of any digital marketing plan in general is your market research. So it's you may be in a niche business where you feel that well, there's no one else out there that's doing what I do. You need to really look at it from the customer's perspective, that and again, we'll talk about knowing who your target market is as well after this section. But it's about understanding that in any market there's choice, and it may not be that might not be exactly the same as your particular product, or maybe you're doing hot air balloons, or you're the only one in the area that does wilderness trips, or something like that. If you're talking to a target market that is after adventure or an adrenaline rush, then it could be that they've actually got a whole suite of choices in front of them, from bushwalk trekking to mountain bike riding to hot air ballooning. So it's sort of you can't be sort of too narrow-minded when you're looking at your market research. So once you've obviously done your SMART goals, and you're looking at this particular campaign or objective that you've got, now's your time to really do your market research and identify who you're playing with and who potentially is already playing in that space. So your research should gather information such as, the potential market size, if it's a growth area, if there's any social trends or demographics, so like population statistics such as age, gender, family type, and obviously your social channels can provide a lot of insight into this as well. And it's important to keep an eye out on your market to be aware of any changes over time. And this is so that you can keep fine-tuning and tweaking your strategy to make sure that it's relevant and always is targeted. So similarly, as part of your digital marketing plan, you should develop a profile of your competitors. So you want to know exactly who else is in your space. So what are their products? What's their supply chain? What's their pricing structure like? And what are they doing as far as marketing and promotion in the space? So, you know, yeah, so you're not sort of going into the unknown without knowing what else is out there from a customer's perspective. So you want to use this to identify your competitive advantage. So where's the gap that you could fill? You know, what sets your business apart from your competitors? You may also want to identify the strengths and weaknesses of your own internal process to help improve your performance compared with your competition. So market research starts to, which is what we've alluded to here, almost starts to go hand in hand with a SWOT analysis. So what it is basically knowing the lay of the land effectively, you know, keeping one eye on the competition, knowing, you know, your business as far as what its strengths, opportunities, but also understanding what its weaknesses are as well, and making sure that you've got a game plan to help combat that weakness, because you need to keep in mind that, you know, your competitors are also consciously aware of what your weaknesses are as well. So whilst you want to take advantage of your competitors' weaknesses, they want to take advantage of yours. So it's about staying one step ahead, and also being just consciously aware of having a plan in place to combat that. And sometimes they're quick fixes and sometimes they're more long term. So when we look at market research, we want to basically understand target markets. We want to understand buyer personas. And we also want to be aware that that they have choice when it comes to solving a problem or making a decision. And this goes for everything, whether it's where are we going to eat, to where are we going to stay, what are we going to do. It's basically the same process, regardless of whether we're talking about a product or a service. So to help differentiate your business from the competition, it's critical to know the gaps and the opportunities that exist. And this is where we'll sort of start to progress into the SWOT analysis in a minute. Now, market research can take a lot of different shapes and forms. You know, you can basically get a professional, you know, market analysis consultant in that'll do a full, you know, marketing landscape audit for you. You can ghost the competition. You can, you know, do mystery shoppers, that sort of thing, to really get some, you know, some actual insights. Or you can do desktop analysis. There's lots of different ways, and you should not just focus on any one tactic, and always be constantly gathering intel from the market. So if we go through these couple of steps here, just to fill in some of the gaps. And again, this is another piece of homework that you can constantly work up. And it could be that you can do a competitor analysis you can drill it down into specific markets, specific customer personas, or you can do it around the actual physical product offering. So you can go quite detailed into this side of things. So you want to identify potential customers. So you want to know exactly who is it that's likely to want or use your products or services. And this is where we start to talk about demographics and some of those other details. So how old are they? Are they male, female? Are they married? Are they single, divorced? You know, how much money do they have to spend? Do they have children? Where do they live? You know, what's their level of education? That sort of thing. So we can start to look at, some of those sort of demographic type pieces of information. And then we want to understand existing customers. So really sort of separate out who do we want as a customer versus who do we have. So obviously you can have, if you look at your existing database of customers, it could be that you make more money out of some than others. Ultimately, if you're looking at a digital marketing tactic that's around, you know, new client acquisition, well, you want to be able to actually profile that that customer that makes you the most money, as opposed to spending money on, getting more customers of a lesser value, basically. So that's where it comes into understanding your existing customers as well. So why do they choose your product over the competition's? Why? What do they value in your business or in your product or service? Is it the level of customer service, the product quality, the prestige associated with the product? Who influences their buying decision, and what websites do they visit? So this sort of comes into as well. There's another session on the buyer journey and website user experience as well. So this type of market research, customer analysis can give your business quite a lot of insight as to who you're actually physically talking to. So understanding your competition. So who are your direct and indirect competitors are? Are they targeting exactly the same people as you? Once you know who they are, look at what they're doing. Is it working? So how are they, are they actually converting more customers than you? Are you actually, outranking them? So really try and understand this from the actual physical customer's perspective. And then you want to also examine and solve business problems. So if you've identified a business problem, research will help you realise what is happening and why it's happening. So you may have identified that there's a market out there that your competition's actually taking advantage of that, maybe you thought you were servicing but aren't, or maybe you had the mindset that maybe that wasn't as popular anymore, but another business has actually picked up that. So it's just about having your ear to the ground, really, and knowing exactly what's happening out there. And then also identifying business opportunities. So your research could identify new opportunities, such as an underserviced audience. So there could be something out there that people are actively looking for, wanting to do, wanting to try, but no one's facilitating it. There could be changes in market trends, population shifts, changes in leisure activities. So we've seen a lot of shifts in that space with COVID, to use that as an example. And businesses have had to be agile and move with that. So those sort of steps there are quite critical as well in really understanding the lay of the land as far as where you're playing. And as I said, it goes sort of hand in hand with the SWOT analysis, which is what we'll look at next. So some of you guys might have already have one of these actively done for your business. Again, this is a great thing you can have it as an overall, general business plan SWOT analysis. So look at it from an actual business positioning point of view. You can break it down as well and actually have it work hand in hand with your goal objective. So you've already done your SMART goals. You've done your competitor analysis with that particular marketing goal, and then you can even go in as far as doing an actual SWOT analysis on it as well. So as I was saying, you can have plans within plans, and what that does is it really doesn't leave any stone unturned as far as really putting that goal, that business initiative, really through its paces to make sure that you've got the confidence that it's basically, yes, we can put some money behind this and know that it's going to come up trumps. So we'll go through the SWOT analysis, and there's actually another activity for this one as well, but we'll just talk this through in a little bit more detail. So SWOT analysis is a strategic planning technique that puts your business in perspective when using the following elements. So we talk about strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So the SWOT analysis helps you identify areas that your business can improve and maximise opportunities, while simultaneously determining negative factors that might hinder your chances of success. So we'll go through this in a little bit more detail here. So this is just a bit of an example just to try and put this in context for you. So let's look at a SWOT analysis that a small to medium restaurant may complete this. So their strengths may be seen as they've got world-class chefs on the books. They've got positive reviews, both online and in the restaurant, and they've got years of service under their belt. So they've got a very experienced, team of staff. Opportunities that they see for their business is they've got a solid current business location. They've got the ability to open more locations, so their business model is scalable. And they've got international cuisine. That's really trendy on social media at the moment. Weaknesses that this particular business has seen is they don't offer delivery. So obviously during COVID, this would have been a massive weakness for them. They've been told that they're pricier than their competitors in the area. So they're sort of going for that premium price, given that they've got these world-class chefs, but at the same time, they're acknowledging that they are losing sales because of it. And they haven't added a menu in years, so they're starting to get a little bit tired. Now, threats that they've identified, so they've got new competitors that are moving in next door. They've got people who will prefer delivery to dining in, and they can't facilitate that at the moment. And their meal prep services are teaching people how to cook many of their menus at home. So they're understanding all that they're seeing, which could be, off the back of COVID, that they've had this shift where people want to be able to have their meals delivered. They don't necessarily want to go out all the time. They've got these world-class chefs. They've got an old, tired menu, but they've got a really solid, standing around quality of service, dependability, trust, that they've been around for quite some time. But they've got a new kid that's going to move in right next door and really start to give them a run for their money. So they can sort of see from looking at this that they're going to start to need to make some changes to not only retain their existing clients, but really put something as an alternative choice to what this new business is that's going to be moving in next door. So you can start to see that they probably really need to look at their menu. Around price, where they've said that they're pricier than their competition. Well, if they can market that effectively, and say that they obviously are offering a premium product with world-class chefs, well, then that's probably that they can hang there. That could be their USP. That could be their unique selling proposition. And then, they obviously need to then identify how in their business process they can start to facilitate delivery, because they are going to start to get left behind in that space. So use that as an example. And there's an activity sheet for this particular SWOT analysis that was on the email. If you guys want to, how are we going for time? If you guys want to take a few minutes and just jot down some ideas around each of those for your businesses, and then again, if we've got some time at the end, we could run through those in the Q&A. Does anyone need any sort of extra tips or direction with that? Does that all make sense? All good?
Colleen, I'll let you know that the example in there is modern right now. It's just around the corner from my place here. There's a pizza place that's been established in the region, probably I'd say for the past 30 years, and is a really big local staple. And there was a takeaway place next to the pizza location, and that takeaway place went out of business, and Domino's have now purchased that location. So this business is going to have a direct competitor right next door that offers a much cheaper product and really fast turnaround time. So it'll be interesting to see from their perspective what changes they'll have to make around what they're doing as a business to ensure that they don't change as a business, or that they continue growing, or what that looks like. So some of the stuff that you can see through a SWOT analysis can be very direct. It can be very immediate as far as an impact, and other things could be quite long term, or it could take time to adjust. And there could be a lot of different factors that contribute to that. So you might see a few direct opportunities and things like that, or direct threats that you can really identify. But some of them could be quite slower, or it could take a lot of time to have a maximum impact against you. So there's quite a few things that could stand out in this one for any given business.
Yeah, and it's the SWOT analysis, and then we'll also look at the 7 Ps, and even your smart marketing goals. Like they've been around for a long time, but they never fail to really put things in perspective. And they're an excellent grounder as far as really identifying what you're dealing with, as far as exactly like Jono said, new opportunities, new threats, but also new opportunities. Yeah, so it's it is, and the marketplace is constantly changing. So it's something that you can't almost, you can't set and forget. You've got to keep revisiting it and retuning it. And that's with any business. It'll, these grow with you. So how's everyone going with that? We'll keep moving and we'll come back to that. We've got time at the end. So we'll work on another little tool that you can have in your toolbox of developing a marketing plan or a digital marketing plan, and that's the 7 Ps. So that's where we start to basically really look at your product or service and really start to drill down to how it actually sits in the marketplace. So the 7 key aspects that you need to focus on when marketing your products and services are covered off in the 7 Ps. So you can choose the right combination across the 7 aspects of your marketing strategy is more likely to be successful. So you can pick and choose from these 7 Ps, but if you can actually complete this analysis for either whether it's a particular product that your business is focused on or whether it's a service offering, this will really start to give another level of perspective for you. So when we talk about the 7 Ps, the first one is product. So what are your actual core products or services that you're offering? Place. So whereabouts are your products or services seen, made, sold, or distributed? So if are you actually selling through gift stores? Are you selling through distributors? Are you a restaurant? So obviously you're dealing through your shop front, or have you got multiple shops? Price. So how will you devise a pricing strategy for your products and services, and how will it affect your customers? How do you make sure that you're profitable, but at the same time still competitive? Promotion. So what do you see are the best ways for you to tell your customers about your products or services? So what are the best ways to reach them? Where are they? Where are they absorbing information or looking for your product or service? People, how many staff do you need and what skills should they have? So how will you train new staff? So that starts to look at your whole, HR management side of the business as well, and how those staff, facilitate that product or service. And processes. So which processes or procedures do you need to develop to ensure you repeatedly deliver the same standard of service to your customers and increase efficiency? So McDonald's is obviously perfect for this. Their business model is that, and yourself, if you've ever gone overseas or, you see Macca's and you're going to get exactly the same thing repeatedly. So there's that level of consistency, which obviously is trust and dependability. But it could be that process also looks at, with our previous model where we had that particular restaurant where it didn't have the capacity or the business processes in space where they could actually facilitate delivery. So it can look at things like that. Process can also look at opportunity with scalability. So it could be that you're looking at a cafe which you've got fantastic HR models in place. Your service model is scalable where it can be picked up and replicated at another town, or you could then develop a chain of cafes which are consistent in look, feel, product, experience. And physical evidence. Where will you sell your product, and what does the customer see from the first moment of contact all the way through to purchase? So again, that talks a little bit, about that customer experience, that customer journey, which is another session that we also drill into in a little bit more detail. But and that sort of plays hand in hand too when we start to look at digital recommendations, digital, referrals online, star ratings, that sort of thing. If you've got people there that you've worked so hard to, attract, acquire, push them all the way through this, and guide them through this buying journey to the point that they've actually converted and they've made a sale. They've had a fantastic experience dealing with your business. They love your product. They've jumped online, given you this raving review. If they've then, effectively referred, encouraged, told someone obviously and shown someone how amazing your product is, and then you want to make sure that that next person that has read that and gone, I need to have that as well. I want that experience. You want to make sure that they're going to have exactly the same experience. So that consistency is very important. And this is something too, just to be mindful of, even, in day to day, when you go and get a coffee at the coffee shop, or, when you go and, even when you go and buy, you buy a car, you make a purchase at the service station, like it's consistency is something that also creates that memorable part of that buying journey. So it's something to be aware of, and within your own business as well, from a staff point of view, it's very critical that they're all to go back to Macca's, that's a very huge part of any of their training and their staff induction program, is this consistency in customer service, inconsistency in product delivery. So the 7 Ps, we've also got an activity sheet for that. So just to help put the meaning behind each of those, there's the activity sheet. If you want to start to work through that.
And we know for some of you guys, your product could be more of a service than actual physical product at the sale as well. So when you get through to the physical evidence side of the fence, where you're talking about your product, you could be talking about how
audio link mode
is your service, or what that might look like.
Yeah, exactly. So whatever it is that that your customers are coming to you to experience, purchase, exchange, that's the way that sort of comes in. So hopefully when you're working through this, you can sort of start to see that, if you're equipped with a really good market intel around your competition, around what this potential opportunity is that you've identified through your SWOT analysis, when you start to sort of work through these 7 Ps, you can actually really start to, validate why you're writing down what you're writing down. It's because you know, that there's a gap in the market because you've done your market research. You know that there's a price point that you can really, you know, capitalize on and know that you're still going to be profitable. There's a huge gap, you know, in this digital marketing space because you know that, you know, you've got no active competitors using this particular channel. All of these sort of things, all this intel allows you to make decisions based on actual, you know, actual intelligence, not just a gut feeling. Be right if we keep moving along.
Hi, Carleen, it's Mill here. I had technical problems, only just joined you, so I'll probably catch up with you at the afternoon session and get through the whole thing on that one.
No worries, Mill. I'll we've actually got a recording of this session, which that I'll talk with Charmaine at the council and have a link sent out that you guys can access and download.
Yeah, my antiquated Macintosh that I'm not getting rid of does not like Microsoft. They do not get on well together.
Yes, I don't think that's deliberate by any means.
No. Upgrade your system, like bloody hell I will, because then I'll lose my Adobe Suite and I'll have to pay for it on the cloud.
Yeah, they've.
I've got your printout, so I'm having a bit of a squeeze through those, but we'll definitely catch up with you for the afternoon session. Now we've worked out how to make it work on my steam-driven Macintosh.
No worries, Mill. All right, well, Yeah, the actual workbook and the presentation that I'm working through will also be available through those links for download as well. So, yeah, you'll have all those assets there to go through.
Okay. Fantastic. Thanks.
No worries. All right, now can I just check in? Everyone still see my screen?
Yes.
Yep.
It's disappeared on my end, Kylene.
Yeah, mine as well. But as long as you guys can still see it.
Yeah. Thanks, Brenda. TJ. Bruce can only see us.
Okay.
Can only see you guys.
Yeah.
Right, I'll just share the content again.
And we're back.
Back. Okay. All righty. So we'll move on to onto tactics. And again, there's actually a dedicated session going through digital marketing tactics later on in the week, and also available with Jono as well in the face-to-face sessions. So when we, we've worked through those previous steps, obviously in a lot more detail, and we've progressed through. Now we start to look at exactly how we're going to, how we're going to actually, deploy that that particular business initiative, goal, objective out into the marketplace. And this is where we look at promotion in regard to the 7 Ps in particular. So you can actually have, like, obviously multiple channels are definitely preferred, and that's where you may have heard of a term called integrated marketing planning, or it could be omni-channel marketing in particular. And what that simply is basically is a jargony way to say that you use lots of, you've got multiple strings to your bow, or multiple pronged approach, that sort of thing. You're basically just deploying more than one tactic. So you're not putting all your eggs in one basket. And you can also start to look at it in a way of identifying that you've got a combination of earned, paid, and owned media, or the digital marketing mix in particular. So that may be another thing that you've maybe heard of or come across in the past. So when people refer to owned, earned, or paid, they're really just divvying up effectively real estate or tactics or ways of actually deploying marketing into 3 core categories. And from your business's perspective, they're owned. So when we talk about owned media, we're talking about things that you've got 100% ownership and authority over. So things like your website, your blog posts, profiles, your emails, your social pages. And one of the most valuable that actually isn't on this particular diagram is your CRM, so your actual customer data. That is the most valuable asset that any business can basically have and manage and work. Now the next category is earned. So these are things where basically it's basically fruits of your labor. So it's your hard work. So they're reviews that you've earned from happy, satisfied customers. It's media coverage, so it's PR. So basically just, really good PR stories about events or happenings or achievements that your business or product or services have. Could be guest posts where you've maybe you've entertained someone that has a bit of a celebrity profile, and they've jumped on and given you a raving, guest blog post or a review or something like that. Social shares, and then influencers. So again, it sort of ties in with a little bit of that PR side of things. So paid, Now, this is where basically you're putting your hand in your back pocket. So anything like pay-per-click, so Google Ads, your display advertising, remarketing, retargeting, paid social ads, native ads, or it could be that you've partnered up with an influencer, but it's actually a paid influencer to provide, commentary and content around your product or service. So they're the three core categories. And when we talk about, integrated or omni-channel marketing, we're making sure that we've got a good cross-section from all of these three categories. And that basically just effectively just helps give you a really good, a good covering. You're not too focused on one and not the other. And that basically goes to making a more successful outcome for any of, your campaign initiatives. So one thing that you can do further to, getting your head around earned, paid versus owned, and how much or how many assets or tactics your business is currently deploying within each of those, is start to have a look at it in relation to the actual digital marketing funnel, effectively. So this is a really good little diagram to, and you may have seen these before, where we talk about lead funnels or buyer journey funnels, that sort of thing. Buyer stage funnels. It's really just a way to track a customer's progression from first exploring and identifying, a product or service that they want, right through the buyer journey down to the point where they actually convert, become a customer, make the sale, and then hopefully become an advocate for your business, product or service, and potentially make another purchase down the track, or perhaps refer a friend to become a customer. So we'll spend a little bit of time getting our head around this particular diagram. We will reference it in some of the other workshops, which will just help continually put it into perspective for you as well. But it's just quite a good way to gain an appreciation as to the different stages of the buying journey and the types of content specifically that each of these stages require to help the customer progress to the next stage. So someone that's in the buyer stage exploration, which is up at the top of the funnel. So if we look at the top of the funnel, that all the fresh leads come in at the top, they progress down. Obviously, the funnel is because you have a lot more leads come in at the top. Only a percentage of those actually progress through to sale. And that's why obviously it's pointing at the bottom. So therefore the funnel analogy, that's how that's come about. So when they're in this reach or buyer stage being exploration, the tactics that are predominantly more successful are always on. So campaign activity that includes organic and paid search, social media, PR. Everyone loves PR because you don't have to pay for it. Display and influencer marketing. So these are the types of things where, and when we say always on, these are pieces of content that could be more corporate based. They could be more product based that doesn't really have a time frame around it. And what it is basically, if you're fishing, it's just basically just casting all the time. So you're just fishing constantly. So key measures around these type of tactics to see if you're actually winning would be a growth in audience volume, audience quality, and audience value and cost. So it could be that if you've got something out there that is a paid Facebook ad, for instance, some paid sponsored content on Facebook, well, you want to make sure that that content is delivering click through to the website if that's where you're pushing traffic through to. It might be that you want to look at audience quality. So therefore you want to be looking at the engagement on that social media content. Is it actually hitting the mark? Is it relevant? Is it something that your target market is actually engaging with? Are they commenting on it? Are they sharing it? That sort of thing. So even at that early stage, you want to be making sure that you've got metrics identified, which comes back to our SMART principles, that you can actually measure to say, okay, well, are these efforts actually doing anything for the business? You're not just posting for posting's sake. So then we go down to the second stage, which is the red section there, which is where it's also referred to as ACT. So sometimes people will refer to the race framework, which is reach, act, convert, engage. And that's basically, it's all one and the same, really. It's just acknowledging that there is a progression as potential customers migrate through the process. So when we're at that ACT stage, we're looking at prompt interactions, subscribers and leads. So these customers have actually progressed through the exploration stage. They've done all their research and they go, right, I need to make a decision. Who am I going to buy this off? Where are we going to go? Where are we going to book? That sort of thing. So at this point, they're in that critical decision-making process. So you want to make sure that you're worth finding. So you're using clear persona customer journeys and content that's relevant, inspirational, useful, and creates leads. So you want to make sure that, if you push them through to a landing page, for instance, or you've deployed a piece of content that, or it could be the homepage on your website, or it could be, a particular page on your website that you push traffic through. You want to make sure that it is answering all of those questions and you've got that call to action, and more importantly, it's easy for them to make the decision. It's easy for them to book. It's easy for them to call, to contact you, to actually close that decision-making process. And at this point, you want to be looking at measuring leads, so lead conversion rates, the time that they've spent on your website, perhaps, or it could be a subscription, or a like, or a share. So these are sort of the most sort of successful types of content to deploy at each of these stages. So the next stage is the convert stage, which is step 4 with the orange. And this is where we want to achieve sales online or offline. And this is actually the physical purchase point. So at this point, we want to be using persuasive marketing. We want to be potentially using marketing automation or perhaps even retargeting. We want to be really pushing brand trust and something that, value that drives conversion. So this is where you could even deploy, your fear of missing out, your FOMO, where you've got, book now only 3 rooms left, or limited, limited spaces, or it could be an event where you've only got, it could be an exclusive invitation only, that sort of thing. And it can also refer to the actual physical call to action text and wording that you've got around particular buttons on your website or your landing page or your paid social media ads. So all of the way that the language that you use at these particular points can all help, close the deal. Basically, they're not sort of open-ended. They're not. They're quite focused and very specific on making that that conversion. And when we're talking about conversion, we're obviously looking at physical sales. We're looking at shopping cart purchases. We're looking at revenue, profit. Conversions, order value, so customer sales, average customer sale value, that sort of thing. So the next and final stage after they've made a purchase is step 5, where it's called engage. So this is where our main priority as a marketer is to encourage repeat purchase. And I'd say the repeat purchase or advocacy, which is where they actually become an advocate for your brand, an advocate for your product. They, tell everyone how amazing it is. They are quite happy to jump online and give, stellar reviews, star ratings on social and that sort of thing. And that's where the consistency in the quality of your sale, your product or your service is so important to continue on the building of your fan club, basically. So advocacy is where you're looking at thrilled customers. So they're key to social media marketing. They validate. So it's basically social proof of what you're actually, delivering, and ensures you research your customer loyalty drivers. So understanding what exactly was it that made you guys so different? What was it that you did, that you may think is second nature, but from a customer's perspective, that really resonated in their mind and made that memorable. And the key measures that we're looking at here could be repeat purchase. So some businesses and some business models will actually have a definitive value against the lifetime value of a customer. And we often deal with that quite a lot in the agribusiness sector as well, where it can take sometimes 12 months for some producers to actually make a decision around quite a substantial purchase. But it's at that point that they've made that purchase, they then become almost like part of a brand family, and this could be a huge highly expensive piece of machinery equipment, but at that point they're sort of brought into that fold, and once they've developed that level of trust and they have a relationship with their local dealer, and they trust that when the equipment breaks down, that they've got someone out on the farm within a very short period, and then they fix it and they're back on the road again. They then obviously buy subsequent pieces of machinery from that particular dealer of that model by that company, because there's that level of trust and relationship there. So as opposed to them having very short campaign periods based on very small values, they look at a lot longer buying journey because the actual purchase price is so much higher. So then they take that one step further and they go, okay, well, in the lifetime value of this customer, if we can retain them, how much are they going to be worth? So there's quite a different approach to that type of marketing, simply because of what they're dealing with. So repeat purchase, we're looking at brand satisfaction, loyalty, and then advocacy. So are they going to go out and actively vouch for you? And of those people that are are thrilled to bits with your product and service, how can you encourage and leverage that to almost start perhaps a referral program or a VIP club, or how can you actually reward them for going out and being an active advocate for your business, your product or service? So that's quite a cool little diagram, that one. I find it's really quite helpful for identifying the vertical, but also the horizontal, and how everything does tie in. And when we talk about content creation for each of the buyer stages, that's where that sort of comes into play. So when you are looking at your content calendar for social, for instance, or your content calendar for your social and your blog posts and Instagram and Facebook and any other of your social media platforms, you'll be having that in the back of your mind, knowing that someone who is at the exploration stage anticipates a very different piece of content to someone who is at the purchasing stage, for instance, and vice versa. So you need to make sure, and this comes back down to understanding who your customer is and knowing what they want to be able to see at each of those stages. And we will cover this in a lot more detail in the buyer journey, but also in the leveraging Facebook for Business. We'll actually go through content buckets in particular, and that will really help put that into context for you. So it's being able to break down different types of content that's relevant and specific for your business, and being able to marry those up to each of those stages. And that's your actual content calendar becomes quite deliberate, quite structured in the way that you can say, okay, well, I'm actually addressing the needs of all of these different types of people at all of these different stages. And that ultimately helps, continually build your lead funnel. So you've got all these leads coming in the top of the funnel, and then it helps obviously progress them, down through that buying journey as they need those extra little bits of information or those little reminders that you're there, that you offer that service, that you offer that product. You're popping up in front of them you're having these multiple touch points as they progress through that decision-making process. And, you know, you create that top of the mind awareness, which might have been another term that you've heard before. So that's a great little diagram that that I still go back to time and time again. And it's always a fantastic thing to talk through with clients when, you know, you are putting any, you know, campaign into action, to make sure that, you know, you've left no stone unturned and you're taking into account all of those other little research and analytics that you've actually, you know, nutted out around a particular, you know, marketing goal, a business initiative, making sure that, you know, it's basically ticked all the boxes, because there's nothing worse than putting all your energy into, you know, developing a campaign that pulls all these leads in at the top, you know, out of a, you know, basically a trigger point that catches people's attention, but then there's nothing to facilitate them at the decision-making process, and there's nothing to facilitate, you know, the purchase. But then it's all about advocacy, and you haven't even got them through to purchase. So it's very important that you've got content out there to help at each particular step, and you're quite structured and very strategic around when you're deploying that content. So hopefully that makes sense. We'll have a little bit of time at the end. There's just one more slide just to wrap this up for us. And this is obviously the budget. So we can't have a plan without a budget. We leave that at the end, because that's when we get to the pointy end. And this is where we start to sort of itemize out as much as possible around the objective, the initiative. We look at the channels that we're going to utilize. We look at the associated costs those channels are going to cost, you know, is going to potentially, you know, be back to the client. We look at any other costs that you may have as a business around developing that content. So do you need to get a videographer in? Do you need to get a professional photo shoot done? Perhaps you have marketing software that you use that you need to factor into this particular campaign. So all of that stuff sort of, you know, package up makes your overall costs. And then we look at that around, you know, tracking these costs against the metrics that you've identified in your SMART metrics, to make sure that, you know, what is it that you're going to measure. And then at the end of the campaign, we use those to evaluate the effectiveness. You know, it could be that you're looking at cost per lead, and ultimately then you're looking at the return on investment for the business after you've deployed that particular campaign. And what this does is, with digital, it's because we've got so much data so quickly, it's very easy to you know, to sort of shift things and then change dates or change expenditure or change targeting to help, you know, lift those results, as opposed to a lot of traditional means where you sort of, you know, might deploy a direct mail campaign and you know, you basically need to sort of sit back and wait. Digital allows you to be a lot more agile, a lot more instantaneous in actually modifying things if they aren't quite living up to expectations. So that's a really great thing to have at your fingertips for this particular, you know, type of marketing. And obviously you can already start to actually, you know, once you've deployed a campaign, you can start to sort of forecast and see, you know, if it's going to reach its target, or it gives you the opportunity, as I said, to fine tune and tailor, or, you know, bring in some other, you know, initiatives like A/B testing or things like that to try and help lift the potential results. But that's the last sort of the part of that intro around developing a digital marketing plan for your business. And hopefully you can sort of, as I said, this is quite a top level sort of look at things. But you can sort of see when you put each of those exercises together. And if you look at it, you know, you might go away and sort of look at it from that top level marketing point of view. But then I find that it really starts to resonate if you do that top level marketing point of view for the business as a whole, but then just take one initiative or one goal or an objective that you've had, or maybe it's been an idea that you've been sitting on, and put it through its paces. And that's where you'll really start to see the benefit of the level of detail each of those steps actually will deliver back, and give you a really, really thorough and detailed roadmap into how to deploy that campaign, and ultimately know how to measure it so that you can see if it's successful. And the amazing thing is that if it is an actual, you know, a cracker and it delivers results, you can then pick that up and reproduce it. Yeah, so hopefully that has given you guys some insight and some tools. Well, we've got, we're already a little bit over. But I've probably got a few more minutes. If there are any questions, feel free to ask them now, or you all have my email address as well as Jono's as well. If you do have any other questions, feel free to email them through, and we'll both endeavour to get back to you. But no doubt we'll be catching up again on some of the other sessions throughout the week. But did anyone have anything that they wanted to share or ask? All good? Got it covered?
Yes.
Excellent. Okay. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for joining us. And no doubt we might see some of you a little bit later on in the day at the next session. Feel free to shoot through any questions that you may have over email. All right. Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Lovely. See you all. Oh, thanks, Brenda.